We're still a couple of months away from knocking down any alfalfa, but planning makes it better. We're going to talk to our expert on alfalfa today, Dr. Don Miller, who is the Director of Product Development with Alforex. And Don, as you've been around the country and around the world for that matter and watched forage production and your research, give us some of the things, the top issues farmers should be paying attention to make them better alfalfa producers as we go forward this year and beyond.
Well, I think the first thing you need to really consider is to start out with good genetics. Now, I always say don't limit your profit potential for the next 4 years with an inferior variety. It really doesn't take much of an improvement to really pay for the extra cost of a good top-line variety. But if you start out with a poor variety, you're spending a lot of money on fertilizers and all the other things, and you just really limit your profit potential. And so that's the first thing. Start out with good genetics. The second thing, I think, is make sure when you do plant that field, you get a good stand. You need really good land prep, firm seed bed. I think one of the first things that I see in a field, farmers come out and say, well, my alfalfa didn't really come up all that good. Is it the seed? What's the problem? Usually they plant it too deep, so that just make sure you don't get it too deep. Plant it in a firm seed bed. Use a good seeding rate. I like 18 to 20 pounds. It's really hard to go back into a thin stand and thicken it up. So start out with a proper seeding rate, and also look at seed treatments. There's Apron and Stamina, which helps on some of the damping off the diseases, and also Phantomyces for the multiple races that are out there. So start out good variety and good land prep.
As you look at varieties, Don, how do we decide what's the good variety? Because everybody that you talk to has got the best seed out there. What should you be looking for as far as that variety as we talk about High-Gest and Harv Extra?
Well, I think you need to look at what your market is and what your needs are. Are you primarily interested in yield, or are you also interested in quality? And also, if you've had disease or insect pests in the past, things that have limited your production in the past, you might want to make sure that the variety that you pick fits your needs. If you've had phytoph or Phantomyces or issues like that in the past, make sure that the varieties that you pick have high resistance to that. And then that's one of the things to get off to a good start, and make sure you have a good variety. And also, this year we're worried a little bit about winter kill. Did the variety that you picked last time, did it have a good winter survival rating? You need to have at least a winter survival rating in the 2s or lower to have a variety that can withstand some of these winters that we're seeing.
So variety selection, and of course getting that seed off to a good start with a proper seed bed. What else as we get into season? Cutting schedules, fertilization, what are the other things that make us better producers?
Yeah, I think you really need good fertility. Make sure that your pH is in the optimal range of 6.5 to 7.5. Alfalfa doesn't like acid soils, and so do a soil test. Make sure that your fertility is good. Also, in recent years, we need to be checking on sulfur and boron levels in that field, because in the past we used to, with acid rains, we didn't have to worry about sulfur, but now sulfur seems to be a factor that's coming up more and more. So, do a soil test. Make sure you've got good fertility out there. Weed control. If you did plant a new field, with a cover crop, make sure that you don't plant too much of that cover crop seed that really acts as a weed with the alfalfa, and don't wait too late to cut that first cut with a cover crop. Cut it in the boot stage, and you're trying to get that alfalfa to establish, and really don't want to damage it, and then you have poor production in the next 3 or 4 years.
Very good.
Timing of cuts, I think that's a good point. On that very first cut, if that's a new planting last fall, make it go a little bit to flowering so that it gets good root reserves. And then if you are really pushing the variety during the middle of summer, you need to make sure that it replenishes its root reserves before you go into the winter months.
Very good. Some tips to make you an expert alfalfa producer from our expert on alfalfa, Dr. Don Miller, Director of Product Development with Alforex.